Alright, let's take a look at the NBA's MVP rankings throughout the season. Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Chris Paul, ooh, DeRozan, not bad. Let's take a look at another one. Embiid, Jokic, Giannis, Chris Paul, Steph Curry, oh, okay. How about another one? Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Chris Paul, Curry, same thing again, but where's DeRozan? 9th? If we're going by record, only Chris Paul and the Suns and Curry's Warriors have a better record than DeRozan and the Bulls. Statistically, DeMar has been better than Curry and Paul, and record-wise, his team has been better than the Sixers, Nuggets, and Bucks. I feel like he should be in the MVP mix. Throughout the entire season, in fact, the Bulls have been either at the top of the conference or close to the top. So why isn't DeMar DeRozan getting any MVP consideration? Even Basketball Reference's MVP tracking algorithm puts DeRozan at a measly 2% chance to win it. Yet, he's literally having one of the greatest stretches of basketball we've seen in NBA history. In a tweet from Mark Spears, DeRozan tied Wilt's record and then broke his record a few days later. It was the record for the longest streak of games with 35-plus points and 50%-plus shooting from the field. Wilt previously held the record with 6 straight games of that, but not anymore. I don't care who you are, but if you break a record held by Wilt Chamberlain, you deserve some sort of recognition. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today let's do a detailed breakdown of how DeMar DeRozan's playing so well. What's changed? Has his playstyle really changed? Then in the second half of this video, I'm going to talk about why he isn't getting the love he deserves when it comes to MVP. Is he really an MVP caliber player? We'll talk about all that. Surely, with his team being so good and his numbers being so good, MVP should not be out of reach, right? Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. If you've seen DeMar DeRozan play this season, from the eye test, there are actually very few things that he's done differently compared to his previous seasons. For a long time, especially in Toronto, the two main things he got criticized for were his shot selection and his defense. However, in Chicago, his shot selection doesn't seem like it's that much better. It's just he's actually making these tough shots way more often than before. Most of his shots are still jumpers, and most are still heavily contested. His biggest improvement by far is his efficiency at hitting shots between 10 and 16 feet. For his entire career, this was a major weakness of his offense. He struggled with angles, and when he would drive to the basket and meet a defender, he had problems hitting shots at this distance. But now, he's hitting 54% from this area, which is over 10 percentage points higher than his career average of 44%. This improvement is largely due to the way he's using his body more to fend off the defender, whereas in the past, he would not get enough separation and force up a much more difficult shot. It also helps that the Bulls have some lethal three-point shooters, with 6 different players hitting at least 38% from 3. This gives DeRozan more space to work with, so the defense can't leave any of his teammates wide open. Additionally, his time in San Antonio turned him into a much better playmaker than before. He sees the court a lot better. He finds his teammates a lot quicker and also passes out of a double team a lot quicker. This has resulted in the lowest turnover percentage of his career at 9.0%. DeRozan mentioned his improved passing as the major reason why his team's offense is so good. Quote, "To be honest, I love getting hot for the simple fact that I don't have to keep shooting. I can draw their attention and get other guys' shots. That's kind of my approach to the fourth quarter. Be aggressive, score, whether it's get to the free throw line or get to my spot. Make the defense make a decision, and from there, I can pick them apart with the passing." This is something the old DeRozan would have never said or done. The old DeRozan wasn't even capable of picking apart a defense with his passing, so when he worked on this aspect of his game, it was a game changer. Generally speaking though, when it comes to his playstyle, in terms of scoring, it hasn't changed much. Frankly, DeRozan is still taking shots in similar areas of the floor as he always did, and they still look very difficult. It's just he's worked on ways to get off his shots better, whether it's using his body, improving his footwork, putting himself in a better position to shoot, or using the glass more effectively. It's actually shocking how much of an anomaly DeRozan truly is. According to cleaningtheglass.com, 70% of DeRozan's field goal attempts come from mid-range distance, the area of the floor that statistically should be the least efficient shots. Yet he's shooting them and hitting them at an absurd percentage. DeRozan embodies the old-school shooting guard mentality, even though he's kind of a small forward now. In many games, he even plays power forward, and it gives him a huge matchup advantage on offense. The dude thrives in the mid-range, like the Kobes and AIs and T-Macs of the early 2000s. It's like his entire game brings you back into the past. That's who he is. That's who he's always been. It also helps that he's an absolute workhorse in the gym. He practices these kind of shots all the time. There was a reporter who asked him what he thought of the NBA media and fans being surprised at how good he's been, to which DeRozan responded, "You just kind of laugh because how can you tell me something I can't do when I know how hard I worked?" Prior to joining the Bulls, DeRozan was not really seen as a closer. There were many times, especially in the playoffs, where he struggled at the end of games. People used to call him DeMar DeRozan. He floundered and underperformed when his team needed him most. But now, DeRozan has scored more total points in the fourth quarter than any other player. Per game, DeRozan's 8.4 points per fourth quarter is top 3 in the league. He's also shooting 55% in the fourth quarter. That's even more insane when you consider how tough his shots are. Opponents know where he's going, they know what kind of shots he's gonna take, but he still makes them. The dude is channeling his inner MJ. In clutch time, which is defined as being 5 minutes left in the game when the score is within 5 points, DeRozan hits 54% of his shots and 90% of his free throws. Out of all qualified players who meet the threshold for shot attempts in the clutch, he has the highest true shooting percentage of everyone. Like I said earlier, doing that while most of your shots are contested mid-range jumpers, it's freaking absurd. Now, in the second part of the video, let's talk about some reasons why DeRozan is not getting the same MVP consideration as his peers. The one thing that a lot of other MVP candidates have over DeMar is that they all impact the game in a variety of different ways, not just by scoring. For Jokic, he's just an all-around beast. Can rebound, pass as well as point guards, can post up, face up. Embiid is similar, though his passing is not as good, but he's a superior defender. Chris Paul is just one of the greatest complete packages for a point guard we've ever seen. Plus, the Suns have by far the best record in the entire NBA. With DeMar, it's like, he has become more of an all-around player compared to before, but outside of his scoring, there aren't any other aspects of his game that you can say is elite. And even scoring-wise, he's somewhat one-dimensional. He doesn't take threes at all, so he can't space the floor for his teammates either. He's predominantly an ISO or pick-and-roll player. Defensively, his individual defensive rating is 113.8. It's the worst among the Bulls starting lineup. The team as a whole has a defensive rating of 111.8, which is already kinda bad for being a top seed, but DeRozan makes it worse when he's on the floor. Defense has always been a thorn on his side, and while he's been making the effort to be a better on-ball defender and reading passing lanes, he's still a below-average defender. We haven't talked about this that much this year because his teammates have helped mitigate his weaknesses. Other aspects of his game, including his passing and court vision, they have gotten better, but it's only in recent years when this part of his game has started coming along. Even if he improved in other categories, most people still would not consider him a multifaceted player. He's amazing at scoring from a particular area, especially from the mid-range. That's his bread and butter, and he does it at such a high level that it cannot be overlooked. Still, that's the only thing he does at a high level. DeRozan does not impact the game in other ways like the other MVP candidates I mentioned. I think his lack of MVP recognition has to do with his reputation as well. Sure, he's been on an absolute tear since the start of January. He's averaged nearly 30 points a game on ridiculous efficiency. But in the past, DeRozan has had similar stretches, and he would cool off eventually, especially in the playoffs. Now, I know past playoff performances should not matter when it comes to deciding the MVP this year, but in the minds of voters, it does affect a player's image. They think DeRozan is just having another hot streak, and they believe it's hard to remain consistent with the way he plays, with the shots he takes. He's bound to regress back to his averages, right? In previous years, DeRozan's playoff performances were far worse than his regular season ones. Again, this should have no impact on the MVP voting, but it's the reputation that sticks to the back of everyone's mind. They think of that subconsciously. The question is this yet another season where DeRozan goes off, but then falls back down to earth in the playoffs? He spent years upon years fighting off this image the media and voters have of him, but it won't go away until he can prove it. Anyway, that's all folks. DeMar DeRozan has cemented his name in the NBA history books forever. And he's playing the best basketball of his entire life, and in such an unorthodox way as well. While every other team is going the Maury ball route, taking threes and shots at the rim, DeRozan is the antithesis of that. Do you guys think he can maintain this level of play as the playoffs roll around? Or will we see the return of DeMar DeRozan? Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.